Hello fellow human, welcome back to another Dank Doggo / ProRevenge videos. So, what is your biggest fear? Cockroach, ghosts, or monsters? Or something bigger than that, like failure, or losing someone you love dearly? The first story by you / Conscious Audience 1. You scared me with one of my biggest fears, so I made you go face to face with yours. Okay, so my cousin is a prankster. She likes telling jokes, and one of her favorites is during the holidays, she likes to tell me my uncle, her dad, is coming to pick me up. If I'm being honest, my uncle is not a nice man. He yells at me and everyone for everything. He lies about people to make them look bad and him look good. He makes fun of me for being overweight. He's very verbally abusive. It's gotten to the point that where I've pretty much grade rocked him, which is basically no contact. And her favorite prank is telling me that he's coming to pick me up to take me to my family gatherings, which I usually avoid going to if he's there. And 2 hours in the car with him? That is literally hell. So a couple of weeks ago, she lied and told me that he called and was gonna pick me up for my birthday. I felt like I was having a panic attack. I remember crying, hyperventilating. I was pacing back and forth trying to figure some way out of it. And yes, visiting him is just that bad. She started laughing. I told her that is not funny. She knows how I feel about that man. And she said, "Don't you feel better now that you know he's not actually coming?" I haven't forgotten that. It's been 2 weeks. I've had enough of that prank. I wanted to prank her to kinda get her back. I remembered her biggest fear, clowns. She's been scared to death of clowns since she was a kid. So I had a friend that's over 6 feet tall dressed up in a scary looking clown suit. I told her I got a free dinner for 2 coupons for my birthday to her favorite restaurant and wanted to share with her to bait her. We left and I had my clown in place. The plan was to stop on the middle of this rural road and to stop the car at a specific spot where my friend was hiding. Everything went to plan. My friend parked his old junk car in the ditch on the side of the road. I stopped and said that we need to check it out and see if they need help. While she's looking in it, looking around for the owner, I sneaked back to my car. My clown runs out of an old barn and straight for us. She saw him, froze, and started screaming. She ran to my car, but I sped up before she could get in. I didn't abandon her. I just drove over a hill where she couldn't see me from where the old car was and watched in my rear view mirror. She tried running with the clown chasing her, screaming for help. He caught up to her. She got on her knees and started crying. He laughed and revealed it was a joke. I drove back and started laughing with him. She told me that wasn't funny, and I repeated what she told me. "Don't you feel better, line?" She screamed and yelled the whole car ride at me. That I could have scared her to death. I told her that's how I feel when she tells me about my uncle. Well, funny how people can't understand they're being a complete jerk when they do something to someone else, but boy, when it's done to them, they can't take a joke there. The second story is shared by you / Psycho Fluffy Butt. He tore up my grandfather's garden. He tore up their car. My dad told me this story a few years back. My grandfather lived in a real rural era in Georgia. This was around late 1930s, early 1940. My grandfather owned a farm and had a garden. He planted various veggies. Well, the only neighbors were about a mile away. And for some reason, the neighbors would drive their Model T through the garden, tearing up the veggies. My grandpa would have to replant the garden. The neighbors kept doing this, so here comes the revenge part. My grandfather dug holes around the gardens and stuck metal poles into the holes. He covered up the holes with leaves. A few days later, the neighbors drove through again. My dad said they tore the undercarriage out and had parts strewn all over the place. He couldn't remember what happened after that, but I don't think they did that again. Well, at least they now learned how dangerous gardening is. The third story is posted by you / Vico Ding H. I sued my boss because he fired me for wanting to attend the concert. First up, for some backstory. During my gap year between studies, I decided to work for Company N. Company N was run by a husband, Dave, and wife, Karen, with their son, and basically treated their staff like a small family. All was well for about 2 months until I realized I had to ask for a day off, since I wanted to attend the last Slayer concert the band would give in my country. There was about a month to go. So I sent an email asking for the day off and explaining why. This is where everything started to go downhill. I got a reply from Karen, and her reply was weird. She stated that's not how asking for a day off works. I was confused, to say the least. Not sure what to do. I thought she wanted a more formal way of asking, so I wrote a formal email asking for the day off. She shot an email back. I really had to think it through what I was doing, which made even less sense to me. But I was hopeful since I never really got a specific no. The next workday rolls around. I arrive, lock up my bike, and headed inside ready for work. I immediately start looking for Dave to ask for answers. Before I could even open my mouth, he asked me, "Do you still want to go to that concert?" I didn't expect him to ask this, so quickly answered yes. The only thing he said back was, "Okay, take off your vest and you can go home." I was stunned. And while the words start to sink in, I look at my colleagues, which were just preparing for opening. When it finally sank in, anger flowed in. I'm not a confrontal person, so I simply took off my vest and gave it to Dave. Without a word, I left and started biking home. When I got back home, I told my mother what happened. We started sending emails for some extra information and got a very Karen-like emails back. After a couple of emails, which went basically nowhere, I looked up for the laws for immediate dismissal. After reading up about it, I learned that in my country, somebody can only be immediately fired when caught stealing, fraudulent, the person isn't able to work, or refusal to do the work. I did neither of these. A day or two later, I met with my attorney and began the steps to sue Company N. I told my lawyer what happened in details, and he was very confident I was in the right and she was not. So, after trading even more emails between the three of us, we went to small claims. I came prepared in a suit with my attorney in tow, and Karen showed up alone. I guess she assumed she won because she thought she was in her right. The trial began, and I was as professional and objective as I could be, and Karen did the same. Well, for about half of the trial. When she realized the evidence was piling up against her, she resorted to calling me a spoiled brat, among other things I don't know the English translation for. I'm safe to say that was the point the judge ruled in my favor. As per usual, I had to wait for a month before I got the verdict black on white in the mail, but I won! It may have taken about 6 months from the moment I was told to go home to the point those 6 months of pay were transferred to my bank account, but it was 100% worth it. In the end, I went to the concert. It was the most awesome and most profitable concert I have ever been to in my life. TLDR, got fired without valid reason and sued the company for it, and I won! Smiley face. Never tell your boss why you're taking a day off. You get a certain amount of day offs, just tell them the days you want to take them. Giving them more information than you need to will not help you. We have here the fourth story shared by u/large meat feast. Fire us or cut our pay? Enjoy a mass walkout. Back in the early 2000s, I worked for a tech company who offered tech support. On-site support and training to organizations who either didn't want specialized IT staff or could benefit from outsourcing. The company consisted of 3 directors, a sales department, finance, HR department, and a tech department. Tech was further split with a senior manager, 4 team managers, and each team having 2 section managers. For call center support, where I worked, we had 2 team leaders, 2 senior engineers, 2 quote-unquote normal engineers, and 2 juniors. I was a standard engineer, earning $22K for a job that was worth at least $5K more outside of the low-price era we all lived in. 2006, and I'm still stuck in this job on the same pay. Conditions are worse than before, with no overtime, no flex time, no financial compensations for industry qualifications, shortened breaks, and no pay raise since I started. To make the matter worse, they sold part of the land that the office was on to a developer, and the on-site car parking was now for management only. We had to either pay to use their nearby console park or risk parking on the street. The morale was low, but despite the bad pay, it was still good for the era we live in. One Friday in July, I think it was the 21st, one of the senior managers finds a document that he shares around the private chat app. It's a restructuring plan that the board voted in last week. Apparently, this had to be made available for the company for 3 months before any changes to the terms and conditions could be made. So the board gave it a generic file name and tried to bury it in a large staff shared area of the network. One of the directors was selling his shares and moving on, having been headhunted by a large recruitment firm in a nearby city. The two remaining directors had managed to buy most of her shares, with a small quantity going outside the company. This was the company's response. Most of the document was a typical downsize or restructure package with a twist. A few team mergers, staff reductions, and pay cuts spun, as if to say that they needed to maximize their profits to put the lost money back into the company. In October, a new contract would be released for all to sign, and it was generic. In November, the restructure would be announced, and by January 1st, the new structure would be in place. The directors noted that the new contract needed to include clauses for non-competition and for soliciting customers, as these didn't exist except for the sales staff. It also mapped the current positions to their new ones and what their new salary would be. I would be down by £5,000 a year, but the twist was that anyone with the word quote-unquote manager in their title would have their pay increase drastically. The team manager's pay jumped from $52K to $65K, for example. By the end of the day, everyone under the rank of team leader had seen this document and was not happy. Over the weekend, I got a text from one of the senior managers inviting me to a barbecue at his house. When I got there, most of the tech staff was there, and during the afternoon, we formulated a battle plan. Our revenge! Monday, 24th July, 8 a.m. 26 people in the tech team arrived for work as normal, and each with a letter for the senior manager giving their 1-month notice, and all quoting the clause in the contract that states members of the technical team with access to confidential company information must be off-site and on gardening leave the same day as they hand in their notice. No exceptions will be given. Gardening leave is a term used to say that we still work for the company and have handed in our notice to quit, but can't remain on site or using company's resource, so must wait for the remainder of the notice at home. We can start a new job within that period. The net effect was that at 9:30 a.m., the director realized that his entire tech staff had quit and marched to the office floor and started harassing one of the seniors. The senior simply stood, took off his ID badge and swiped a card and handed it to the director and told him, "I've already quit. This is me now sticking to my contract." On cue, most of the staff followed, with one member staying until lunchtime. From what I've been told, directors, senior managers, anyone they could get a hold of were on the phones attempting to fix the issues. The unsolved open queue went from around 35 to nearly 100 by lunchtime, and naturally the blame was left firmly at the door of those who quit. We were even bath-mouthed to customers. The day after our notice expired, the senior engineer welcomed 25 new staff to his new company and had already taken 10 large contracts from the place we used to work for. We all had better pay, not much, but it was better than losing pay, and much better conditions with an actual career track rather than just a whim of the managers. The old company tried to keep afloat for a year, but were losing money on every contract and couldn't afford to employ skilled or experienced people. They closed down in June of 2007, with the owners having to sell personal assets to pay debts, and the two remaining directors declaring personal bankruptcy too. I left the new company in 2010 as the market has changed and more companies were hiring staff than outsourcing, so contracts were harder to find, and I also had some minor medical issues that meant I needed to be near home. New company is still going strong though, having leaned more towards web designs and development than anything else these days. Exactly what happens when management forgets who's doing the actual work. Well played! Next up, we have the final story shared by u/Dreadlock1989. Pass me for manager promotion and hire your useless credit-stealing friend, I'll destroy your career. So this is not my story. Got permission to post from the pro-revenger himself, but due to nature of events, I don't mind account being made into sacrificial lamb if it got back to people involved, as my account is essentially expendable. So to the story. Dave, not real name, has been working for an IT programming company for just over 9 years, getting a good rep as hard worker. And all of his colleagues knew him and can trust him to be a big help in times of troubles like during big difficult projects for major clients. Dave's manager, John, was planning to retire and thought that Dave would be a good replacement. So, he put his name forward as a recommendation and started showing him the ropes of his potential new job just to give him a glimpse of what he may be asked to undertake. A month later, John puts in his notice of retirement and Dave's departed manager, Michael, starts the interview process. Some character info. Well, as John was a good manager, very people-friendly, Michael was not. All Michael cared about was numbers and reports. He didn't even know who most of his staff was, nor did he have very much interaction with them. Back to the story. Michael had started the interviews to fill Job's position, Dave being one of the interviewees. And Dave thought the interview went really well. A few nervous months later, Michael announces the new manager. It's an outside employment, not an internal promotion. Dave was disappointed but brushed it off as there's always someone better for the job. But in less than a week, he realized just how wrong he was. The new manager, Darren, was below useless. He didn't know how to spell computer program, let alone write one. Turns out he was old friends with Michael, and Michael had helped him fabricate his resume to get him the job. The news quickly spread to all the programmers, but there was nothing they could do as Michael was the person all the complaints had to go through and he buried all of them. So no one above Michael knew of Darren's incompetence. Darren from day one had been pushing all of his work to others, and then claiming credit for the work they had done, getting bonuses for completed work he didn't deserve. Darren spent his days watching movies, napping, playing games, and occasionally pretending to be a manager when the need arose, but never wrote a single line of code. After 3 months of this extra workload was starting to affect Dave and others, but talking to Michael would do nothing. So, Dave devised a plan to sort it out. Time for the ProRevenge. Dave had talked with all the other programmers and agreed next time Darren pushed a major project onto them to purposefully sabotage their work, not in a big way, just enough to cause some bugs and glitches that will really light a fire under Michael's and Darren. It took about under a month, but a really big project came in. Immediately, Darren started pushing his work onto others and stealing credit, so the plan was put into action. It was easy to accomplish, especially as Darren had no clue about coding and Michael didn't care as long as the project was done in a good time. The project was done and saved and sent to the client, with almost all of the major work credit being stolen by Darren. It took less than 2 days for the client to call back, complaining about how the new program has damaged his system and was wreaking havoc on his company. The client wanted it fixed and a full refund. The bosses were pissed at Michael. Michael tried to shift blame onto Darren. Darren tried to shift blame onto the programmers. Dave and the programmers just point out the program wasn't their project and denied any involvement in its development, which brought the attention back to Darren. The fallout. With the bosses coming down on Darren for what happened, he confessed he lied on his resume and he ratted out Michael about how he helped him fabricate it. Dave and programmers denied any wrongdoings, just stating Darren must have damaged the program somehow. Michael and Darren were promptly fired and replaced. Dave and the rest fixed the quote-unquote errors that Darren had created and the client was happy. In the end, Dave didn't get the promotion, but left the company a year later for a better job. TLDR. Department manager hires a useless credit-stealing friend as a manager. Programmers sabotage big project. Both managers get full blame and are fired. Well, the only sad thing about this whole story is that Dave still didn't get the promotion. What a bummer. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time!